Home is where our living dreams are. Live in dreams. This is the garden, East Barrel rental property. It just experienced recently, a few weeks ago, minus 10 degrees. And a lot of the natives and other fruit trees got smashed. We probably lost about 20 plants. I've never experienced minus 10 here. We've experienced probably down to minus 5, but the jump between minus 5 and minus 10 is huge. A lot of people say it was only minus 5, but we're saying that it was much more than that, because we got these drums, 200-litre water drums at the back, which we use to dechlorinate tap water, because we don't have water tanks yet. And the ice inside that was going down close to a foot in thickness. So that's pretty serious cold during the night. But anyway, we've been doing a bit of work out the front. We're going to replace a few plants that we lost. We've had a lot of howling winds. They've been coming and going for about 6 weeks, and a couple of stringers got knocked over, and they became chop and drop, and then we planted some other shrubs in them. About 2 weeks ago, the whole front was just full of colour, like this one down here. There were a lot of natives that burst. I don't know the names of all the different plants. I don't really care so much about that. But we will be adding, we've got more pots where we've been propagating, and a few more we're going to buy and add to the front. And as we go around the back, I'll show you the rest of the projects. But I'm committed to produce a few propaganda videos like this one, Home is Where Our Dreams Are. And those of you who know the Love Life work will see that when I talk about the system, we're talking about the occultists who are creating a fantasy dream world out of the living dream of reality that's nature. I won't go explaining all that in this video. Those of you who are new to this, who may be watching this video, this is 1/10 of an acre on a rental property in East Barrel, outside Sydney. About 70 minutes by car. And there are videos called From Bare Dirt to Abundance that you can look at to show you how the garden was before we started. It was just all lawn, and those who came and helped along the way in growing this dream that we live in, this living dream. With the occultists, it's called inculcation, and they are creating this fantasy dream world. And what I've come to sense is that we should no longer be concerned about what they do. As much as they want to create their fantasy dream world out of nature, earth, reality, I'm saying let them have it. Let them have their dream. Because they will go all together to where that dream really is. Because it is fantasy, they don't remain here in reality. As a collective, they will all go in one big sweep, swept up to the fantasy dream world where it belongs. And we shouldn't be concerned about what they're doing. Sure, they're kidnapping women, children, selling them for body parts. We must remain vigilant, discerning and all about that sort of stuff. No one has the right to be stolen. In spite of whatever's happening out there, we must stop that approaching our own families, being a family man myself. And but not be in fear or paranoia about what the occultists are doing here. If you look at the remains of the ancient civilizations, they all went at one time, because that was the same fantasy dream world that the occultists had created, and to produce this one world system where this one tribe, one family would have power over everybody. And they have been doing the same thing again since that whole thing was wiped out in one big bang. And you see the sarcophagi and all the remains of all the places where all their bodies were placed. It's no different to today, where the second coming, the second attempt at this madness is being conducted. And with underground bases, underground tunnels, storing seed vaults and all this sort of stuff. Because they really want to fulfill the prophecies of the Bible blueprint that they had created, which they brought as the Norman conquest to the lands we now call Britain, and from there sprouting out that conquest across the whole of Earth, after already doing what they've done in out of Egypt and Europe and all those areas. Egypt means the system. It's the system. It's actually ancient Greece, where this occultic madness has come out of, which is the birth of the Western world that we call today as the second coming of Jesus. Zeus being one world government, one world system. All their gods typified the different arms and organs and glands of the system as we have today, with corporations and bureaucracy that runs the different areas, that runs the whole system as a collective, which everybody goes to visit, whether it's the police, taxation department, public works. All these things are all governed by their gods. In this 1/10 of an acre that we've created here, we've created a living dream of reality. Not as an escape from reality, but actually a merging of wholeness with reality, and allow this occultic madness to play out its end time game. You know, trying to rescue or save anyone from this is a waste of effort, because it's a choice, a free will choice everyone has. And this is all, again, you can explore the Love for Life work. I think I didn't mention the links that you can find, which I'll put in this video, is the Satanic Craft of Inculcation and Practice, the Selfie of Frankenstein, and the homepage of the Love for Life website. And in there you'll find videos like the background to the system, part 1 to part 15. And you'll find other videos that explain all the background to what I'm touching on. The more of us who return to reality and focus on the living dreams that we hold, it's no longer about time and space or measurements and all that. It's about holding the living dream of our senses, what we make sense of, who we really are, and expanding that. Again, that's all explained in those other videos and articles and posts. These are artichokes. We're going to plant quite a few of them underneath the Lalandis here. We haven't chopped them down yet. And until we can get to this area and do something. I will just go back and just have a look around some of the things closer. For those of you who are interested in what we've been doing, there's been a lot of work here. You'll see, like these two pots here, we've got a lot of twin pairs around different parts of the garden to stop cross-pollination. Hannah does this for us to collect our seeds. And they appear in various parts of the garden. And when this flowering's over, we can bring them all together in a big pile until the seeds are ready for us to cultivate, take for next season, or to continue planting. Some you can plant all year round. But going back to home is where your dreams are, is everything, guys, everything. When you know who you really are, it's no longer about what they do, what they threaten to do, what they are doing that's harming and causing mayhem in so many different ways to bring everybody down to their knees. Because the Bible is the blueprint of this self-fulfilling prophecy, where they're going to bring all of man to their knees and bring in this 1,000-year golden reign remedy of Jesus with their Messiah, the Saviour, which only comes out of the system, out of their fantasy dream world. It does not come out of reality, because no man is master of another man. All men are equal. And when children are brought up by nature, with no one inside their heads defining reality to them, there is no other man telling them how to think or feel about anything. And that's where the uniqueness and the originality and the essence of what a man is plays out naturally. Undefined. We're all meant to be undefined. Completely undefined. These fruit trees were smashed by this -10 frost. They've recovered now. You can see all the new shoots. Fiona's been pruning really heavily back. But it's great to see how many things have actually survived that frost. And while we're at it, let's look up in the sky a bit. And those of you will know what I'm talking about. You'll see the chemtrails. My ears are ringing with really high-pitched signals. HARP has been really highly generated. And this is all part of creating the end times. The drought, pestilence, poverty, malnutrition, all these things they planned for to bring in their 1,000-year golden reign. Because the New World Order is not all the present chaos and harm and destruction. The New World Order is the remedy to all this, brought in by all the good guys, all the good shepherds. Which is all covered in the Love for Life Insight work. What we're seeing here is brothers and sisters who have lost to fantasy, working like mad scientists, dabbling with reality and using experimentations like Frankenstein's or Frankenstein's, doing social engineering experiments of all types to conjure up this madness of the outcomes they dream for. Fiona and this man, and Hannah and others who hold this dream, we're not concerned about what they do anymore. You see, it's not even about our bodies, because who we really are does not end at the surface of our skin. Who we really are, that's undefined, when we're no longer living through the definitions of the occultist dream world that defines, like, that's a daffodil, that's yellow, that's this, that's that. Because they're just pictures in our head, they're ideas, but they're not actually the life form itself that we're experiencing. For example, we can all be standing and smelling those flowers over there, or over there, heaps of us. But each one of us is having a different experience of smell. Even though each of us can explain or describe what we are experiencing, the explanations or those definitions is still not the experience that each of us is having, in spite of how much we try to explain it. So what we sense, what we smell, is unique and original to each of us, and that can never ever be kidnapped or stolen from us. But however, if we get sucked into the definitions and believe that that's daffodil and that's yellow, our head can be spinning with the images of the occultists inside our heads, so that everything we see is their dream world, in their image, and not the one that we experience through our senses, as we sense instant by instant by instant, because each moment is unique and original, never to be repeated. This is why every leaf is unique and original, every grain of sand, every particle of water. Everything of reality is unique and original, instant by instant. It's unmeasured, undefined. And the children who are brought up by nature with no one inside their heads defining anything to them about reality are also in the living dream, because they live in the dreams of their senses that they experience. And that is the true essence of man, undefined. We can never predetermine anything. All the trickery of the occultists, all the sorcerers, they're the ones who come up with all the fairy tales of self-fulfilling prophecies, of messiahs and saviors. They're all costumes that people wear. No different to a child learning the story of Superman, then putting on the costume of Superman, and then running around in the story of Superman as Superman, in that dream world that child never created, because it was defined to the child by another man. by other men and women. And that's what education's all about. These occultists that came as the Norman Conquest, that then expanded, they brought all the books with them. They came on those UFOs, unidentified floating objects, those weird ships with weird hats that we relate to the British Empire and all the other Europa families of that same one bloodline. And it's there that they brought the dream world to superimpose it over reality. So your head is spinning constantly with what they told you to think and feel. And if that's all you know, then you are lost in their dream world, and you'll call it your home. And you'll call yourself Greek, Italian, punk rocker, New Ager. You call it consciousness, New Age, whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to identify it as. But it's all fake. It isn't your dream because you never created them through your senses and expanded it, because you're not living in those dreams of your senses. It is nonsense. We've got some temporary clips up here because we rushed to close off these boxes, but Fiona hasn't had time to do all the stitching work to finish it all off. So we will come back and finish all these and tidy it up. So we grow our brassicas inside these to cut down on the white butterflies. But your senses are unique and original, never to be repeated instant by instant. And the dreams that you create out of your sensing of smell, sight, sound is the expansion of the living soul of the man, who we really are. It's undefined. We can create the vessel as in the children, but we cannot create the soul, the essence of the live-in dream of man. The more the children are allowed to be brought up by nature with no one inside their heads defining anything of reality, the more the child expands the essence of the man, the undefined man. It was a lie to think that we were coming out of the dark ages, and that we were squiggly, scrawly, crubbly things, that we came out of war and cannibalism and all this stuff. Elements of this happened, but it was blown out of proportion. Just like it is today with we have police cameras protecting us all on the roads, when if you think about how many cars, motorbikes, trucks, anything motorized appears on the road, stops and starts. How many journeys occur in a day just for one car? Mum taking kids to school, mum going to the shop, mum meeting up with her friends at the coffee shop. Yonder goes. How many times a stop and start journeying of a motor vehicle, of every motorized vehicle? Multiply it out in the multi-millions per day. And then look at how many people died per day, per month, per year. It's like a white ant scratching at the base of Mount Everest. Yet everyone believes we must have protection. So the psyops, the psychological manipulation of these tactics, is to have everyone who lives local believe they need something bigger than local. Bigger as in local council, but bigger than that, state government, but even bigger than that, federal government, but even bigger than that, one world government, to protect us all from each other, which has all been manipulated and engineered by the psyops of these occultists who brought this about, because everyone's living local. And yet it's at local where all the changes are being made to accept the occultists and their dream worlds to rule us. You see, a child brought up by nature doesn't need another man to tell him anything, because when you're conscious, because you are in your senses of your living dream, because you are that, you are the plant, you are the smell, you are the tree. When you sense the smell, like if you look at the background through that and you can see the sage, and you smell that sage, you are there. You're not in your head, you are there. And when you're looking at the plants, you are there. And when you look at everything of reality, and the trees and the plants, you are there. You're not in between where the images of the psyops is being performed, because that's the fantasy dream world. And that is where everybody has called it home, who've been sucked into believing that these dreams, defining reality to us, is our living dream. Because they're not. They're not our living dream. They never have been, and never will be. So let the occultists have their living dream. Let them fulfill the outcomes they dream for. Let all those who want to go with that dream go with it, because they will all be swept up and taken away to the nonsense dream world, because it doesn't exist here in our senses. It is not in the living sensory reality. So just like all the ancient remains of the ancient civilizations all went in one big bang all across Earth in one hit, they all went with it. And all the remains, you can see it all. You'll see it again, played out. Because their dream world doesn't belong here. It is not their living dream here. They're dabbling with reality to create their fantasy dream world. So let them go, let them have it, don't fight them, don't waste your energy, focus on creating living dreams as in gardens and raise your children with those amongst you, build up your communities and groups, but make sure you're not inculcating each other, because there are no families, there are no tribes in that way, because that's all defined. When everything is undefined, we already are families, we are already tribes, we're already man, we're already everything, it's already there, we're already being it, it's already taken care of. We don't have to define it with a name. That's why this Arthur Cristian, I'm dropping the surname. I'm not Arthur Cristian, because that Cristian is a fake. The sound of the name Arthur is just the man that people can relate to this man, but you know, it could have been my smell, the sight, because that already tells everybody who this man is if we're using our senses. And we can talk to each other through the water of our breath. Every time we breathe out, we can sense each other. We're in mid-October, so we are raising, for the first time since we started this garden, we're producing a range of vegetables that get destroyed by frost, so we take them in and out of the hothouse every day until we feel that the worst of the potential frost has come and gone, and then we plant them 1 metre tall, 2 metres tall. We've removed heaps of stuff out of here in the last few weeks, and this is another new batch coming through. There's basil we're about to plant. We're going to put a cover over them so they can cope if any more frost comes through. So the whole goal is that we're actually eating basil, eating tomatoes, eating cucumbers late November instead of waiting until January. So we're cutting about 1.5 to 2 months out to make our season longer in this colder climate until we can change the climates in this living dream that we hold, because we actually can change the weather. So we use the system to get out of the system, but we have no emotional attachments to everything we use of this system, because it's all nonsense. It's not our dream world. It's just that we're all waking up compromised to this. So don't be scared. Use the system. Sure, there's still harm being supported, but the intention is to learn how to let go of it all, so we don't need it. So when we recreate food forests and we can learn to live in these forests again, we don't need all this. All this goes. So the whole of the dream world of the occultists just fades away in one big swipe. And if you are in the living dream of your senses, of your sensory dream world of reality, this is where you always will be. There is no death. There has never been any death. That's only in the fantasy dream world. And when you realize that, they can't even take who you are, even if they want to steal your body and murder it and hurt it and injure it. They still cannot take who you are. It lives on. They're the ones who are dying during the rituals of trying to harm the living. So don't be frightened. Don't be scared of all this stuff anymore. That's why this 1/10 of an acre has been more than enough for us to create and expand a living dream that we use of our senses, while we've been using the system to create what we need to do to reconnect with reality. So for example, where this man was working 20 years almost, earning up to 4,000 a week, generally 4,000 a week income in the pocket every week, completely lost in the system, to 2006, 2005, 2006 having nothing because of Macquarie Bank and the frauds and all that, and learning how to now take care of my family. So I'm actually a better provider now. Instead of worrying about working and relying on the slave systems and all the slaves who have to support it, we work to provide the abundance. So my children can be fed from the garden. This is what Hannah's doing. Hannah works in the garden. She goes out and works at Harris Farm. She brings fictional dollars in and supports it. But the bigger picture is learning how we ought to unplug from this fake dream that is not our living dream. So instead of looking at lawns and being hungry if the system shits the fan, and being sucked into the idea of overpopulation and global warming and all this end times occultic propaganda that's been played out, we don't get sucked into all that. We just focus on what we can do, calmly, peacefully, powerfully, without the self-obsession, all that demonic possession that we covered in the background of the system videos and in the Selkie of Frankenstein and the satanic craft of inculcation and practice. There's Fiona down there in her living dream. And so this is where we're up to in the garden of this living dream. All the while the world is coming to an end, their world, we carry on, doing what we can. And if they want to take our bodies, we don't die, because we know who we are. Our senses are beyond the surface of our skin. When you can hold the big picture of the living dream, you're holding the eagle as it soars. You're holding the celestial bodies as they hang. You hold the tiniest minuscule creatures that creep and crawl under trees and bark. You're holding the tree and all the birds that sing and the butterflies and all the insects. You're holding everything, because that is who you really are. It is your living dream of your senses. Your senses expand. So watch out for the definitions that define the fake dream world that sucks you into hell, because the system is hell, is a defined reality where everything has been explained to you. Basically, every single alphabet thought in your head is that. Every single alphabet thought that you're listening to coming from this man is not your dream. So if you can sense the intentions of this man, you will sense the bigger picture that drives us, because that is undefined. We cannot help you define reality by talking in English or any alphabet language, because all that is bullshit. What we do here is try to trigger your ability to sense your living dream. And if you do, you will learn quickly to take full responsibility for everything you think, feel, and do, because you no longer want to live in a slave system where you're getting out and having slaves out there provide food in the shops that you go to, that provide the water for the local councils, that provide the fictional dollars from all the bureaucracies and all the, well, for example, to have one screw that we buy to do these boxes requires tens of thousands of brainwashed men and women to play out the roles, the defined real roles, for this man to have the one screw. The one screw that comes from the mountain that was ripped open, the trees that were taken down, the workers that did all that, the workers who then dug up everything out of it and then transported the metals to take it to where they had to be turned into the materials that they became the screws. All the bureaucracy, all the office workers, the taxation department, the police departments, the people who work the roads and make the roads and the lights, all those who carried out all the paperwork, the white collars, the blue collars, just to have that one screw. So if you want to have one thing of the system forevermore, you bring it all with you. You bring everything of the system with you. If you are in love with that, we are not in love with the screw or the gutters or recycling materials. We see all this going, but who we are and the living essence of who we are remains forevermore, undefined. So we're letting it all collapse without creating many wars. We don't want to start up more little fires in our heads and busy running around inside our head trying to save this and save that and stop vaccination and fight out chemtrails this and getting caught up with the injustices and all that. We focus on what we can do and holding that dream and creating the space for others to enter that living dream and then add and expand that living dream, so the abundance is shared amongst all of us equally, without ownership. We got it all. We got it all. See, so being already the living man already has us be part of tribes without having to form a tribe. We don't need to define the tribe. we're already part of a family that haven't defined a family, because that's what a man is. Man dreams and holds a dream and meets a partner and then creates children. It comes out of the dreams of our senses, not out of the nonsense. These are not dreams that meet our self-obsession, that meet the addictions we have to things that we want. So we go and get dogs because we want the dog, so we can obsess over the dog. Because the real dog is not on our radar. We can't sense the truth of the dog. We only have what we want from the dog. And we keep them at home during the days while we go to work and they're barking and yowing and being miserable because they haven't got anyone around them. And you know, it's amazing, even out here in this rural area, how many dogs we hear during the day barking and howling, and you know, they're all alone. This is not love. There's no love. This is all misguided. How many people have relationships and marriages? It's all fake because it's all defined. All this is covered in the Love for Life work, guys. You can get all that in your head. This world that's playing out right now, these end times with war, with what Donald Trump is pushing with North Korea and all that, it's a scam, guys. Don't listen to it all. Get out of there. Focus on the living dream. Focus on the essence of who we really are and expand it through your senses. If we can create the space for others to dream their living dreams, they become your greatest ally because they will never want anything from you. Instead, they gift everything they are as that living dream that they hold and expand, because who they are is not between the ears anymore and is not ended at the surface of the skin. Who they are is the whole of the dream of life, and that is what they share with you. So the brothers and sisters who come to live with you, they don't come as tribes, they don't come as families, they don't come as surnames and all that stuff. They come as the living dream that they hold. Right? It's like the Christians and the lions and the stories, and that's for all the Christians in the Roman Colosseums, right? Don't worry about all that. All those who really went through that, they never died. They knew who they were. That's how Rome and all that collapsed before the whole thing went down. It's already happening again. Don't get caught up in all this stuff about being saved. There is no one to save you. That's a lie. The essence of who you are was already in the womb as you arrived as the womb, as you appeared in the womb, and you already got it all built in. The whole of the creator of the living dream that has no beginning, no end, undefined, you already got it. There's proof right there before my eyes. An undefined womb, man. And would you like to say something about obsession, animals, anything you're inspired by?
Well, I could say this, even this is not the answer, the gardening, because more and more I realise every time we garden, nearly, we're actually disturbing nature in some way. It's amazing when you're gardening, and because we're in a small space, we have to move around a lot, and we're always having to move this or change that, and how quickly we've just had a little pile of bricks sitting there, and how quickly when we need to move those bricks again, for example, to use them for something, there's spiders there with egg sacs, there's slugs in there, there's slaters in there, there's all these little creatures that have made their homes and are busy doing the thing, and we come along, vroom, it's gone. Every time we dig in the soil to plant something, if we're not careful, it's gone. There's worms destroyed, there's creatures moved, babies disturbed. This is not the answer, and I think that's where a lot of people find it easy. They get into the love of gardening, and that's where they stay, but we really have to move to creating the food forest, so we're no longer creating that harm as we're gardening things. We're just plucking from the fruits of the food forest, plucking the greens, plucking the fruits, so we're not actually disturbing all the little habitats that are going on all around.
Yeah.
And that's it.
So that means we have to overcome all the obsession that makes us set into motion these ideas. But it just shows you how deeply compromised we are, and how we got to learn to contemplate. So creating the living dreams of your home, where your dream is, creates the space for you to contemplate. So your head is not spinning, I've got to go to work, I've got to pay for my mortgage, I've got to get my kids through school, I've got to watch where I go. You know, it's amazing how much of the occults that is this nonsense. I'll give you an example of it again. Little Mary is a man. Little Mary is Fiona, Arthur, you, me, man, womb man. We can sense little Mary in present sense through our senses. We can touch, taste, feel, smell, hear, see little Mary. Little Mary is present with the presence of life, with the presence of life. We can sense little Mary. All the time little Mary performs as Superwoman or Alice in Wonderland, or as the surname Jill Smith, the lawyer, or Alice in Wonderland that I mentioned before. All of that is not present with the presence of life. We cannot sense the definition of the title of the name. So, Superwoman is not present with the presence of life. We are only fantasizing or imagining that Superwoman is here amongst the living, as part of the living. But Superwoman has never been part of the living and never will be. We are just lost in the fantasy. So the definition of the name of the man is also that. It's just a costume that we wear and run around and play in. But none of that is who we really are. So unless you can wake up to this and see the difference between reality, because who you are already existed before a definition came along to define it. You don't need any definition to tell you who you really are. So when we tell little Mary that that is a daffodil and that is yellow, we're actually saying to little Mary, you're no longer magnificent. You can no longer work things out in your unique original way. You must have doubt and uncertainty about everything you think, feel and do for all your life. You must become dependent on those of us who will define reality for you, who will tell you what freedom is, what consciousness is, what truth is, what life is, what color is, what everything is that's in your head that comes out of alphabets. And we want you to suck on the nipples of these things, where you will continue to live in the dream that is not yours, of your creation. They are defined dreams that are fake. And if you do that and you get lost in these dreams, which is what we're saying to our children when we tell them the daffodil is yellow, we're telling that you are now part of the system, that you are in hell, and you are now the property of the occultists. And you will carry out everything predetermined for you, because everything in the system is predetermined. It is self-fulfilling, because it is a script running through your head. Every single alphabet thought in here is a script that has you perform the costume and title of the name that you have that you accept as the definition of your reality, of your live-in dream. But it isn't your live-in dream. It is all fake. It never existed. Who you really are was already there. So when we tell our children that's a daffodil and that's yellow, and they're vulnerable to these kind of occultic or satanic attacks, because this is what Satanism is all about. Using inculcation to define reality for others. When we tell our children that that's a daffodil's yellow, we're telling them you must have doubt and uncertainty about who you really are, meaning you must never listen to what you sense, what you smell, what you see, what you hear, what you touch, what you taste. For example, if that was the night sky up there, everything you sense with your eyes of the celestial bodies is true. But everything that has been explained to you about what you see, sense, is not true. So when you're also looking through nature, every single definition in your head is the same. You are not there. They are not your dreams. So all the time that you are lost in the definitions, you are trapped in between the ears, so to speak, in a fantasy dream world, playing out the costumes and titles of the fake persona, the fake straw man, the agent in commerce, the fake man, because it ain't your living dream. You are just playing out the fantasy of another man's dream world that was defining yours for you. What is so important here is that when you wake up to this and you can sense the distinction between sense and nonsense, because Alice is nonsense. Even if Alice performed in front of if Little Mary performed in front of 100,000 people, and all stood up to applause for half an hour in exuberance for a great performance, it's still not proof of fact that Alice exists. So no matter how much you get up and go around all day with the media coming in between your ears and everything played out through the internet and the newspapers and television and everything played out through the Olympic Games and the world sport events and whatever, none of it is proof of fact that you are in reality or of reality. It wouldn't matter if you look at the Taj Mahal or you look at the pyramids or you look at the White House, you're looking at fantasy. It is not your live-in dream. You never created them. The only inheritance you've received is the lie. You live the lie. And while you live the lie, you are processing a curse. The curse is that everyone who's trapped in the lie needs to use and exploit everyone else for them to live the lie of the fake persona in the system. That's why you walk around driving cars and using petrol and using all the materials that come out of the system, because it is a slave system that provides everything for you. It was all predetermined even before you arrived or appeared in the womb. So, if you can get that, if you all guys can get this, which you can, then you need to go back to your senses to make sense. And that is undefined. And when you do that, you no longer own land. You no longer have any title. There is no such thing as native title or trust funds or any kind of funds that require alphabets. So there's no one to go to fix anything for you, because you already have all that power. But if you give it all up because you were trained to give it up from so young, then you are lost. And you don't know who you really are anymore. And the dream that you live in is fake. It's never been about what goes on out there. It's who you really are and the dream that you hold through your senses. The more that you remember who you really are, the more you can return to reality, the more that you will drop the system and walk away from it and give your life energy to holding the bigger picture of who you really are as God, gifted as God. Because that is who we really are. That is the inheritance and legacy of full responsibility for everything we think, feel, and do. That is the basis of free will. Everyone has free will. It is 100% and will always be 100%. Everything else going on in that 100% is fantasy. Whatever is spinning between your ears is fake. Fake. And fake. And fake. And you'll be lost thinking someone out there is going to rescue you. A magic wand will come in some commercial remedy. Some magic wand will come as a savior. It's all a lie. Each of us is responsible. Each of us has that power to change this and walk away. So here we are on a rental property, 1/10 of an acre. I wake up and go to bed, this man, and do this. Create abundance and share that abundance. So instead of going to work and slaving in a slave system, to support it and keep perpetuating the system, because that's all that can happen, you've got to keep it going that way, I've unplugged completely and did that in 2006 in the system of fictional time and space. And now I live to create abundance, and it's a living source, a living sensory abundance. So we put food on the table for others to eat. All the excess is given to others. The more of us work together like this and we hold that dream, we create food forests. And as we live amongst the food forests, there's no more thinking about overpopulation and everything else that's spinning in our heads, all that nonsense bullshit. We find peace, true peace. And when you find true peace, you can contemplate amongst the magnificence of reality to inspire the weaving of our living dreams. It's like surfing a wave of life. We caught the wave and we're in the tube. And as we ride that wave, our intentions for the living dream forms. And as we form that wave, as we ride, others are also riding that wave. And we soar in the tube rides of our creation, of our co-creation. And we're like the wind at each other's wings. We raise each other up out of this madness. So when we return to sense, we no longer let the nonsense spin in our heads that where all the fear of what the self-obsession makes a mess of us. And it's there that we find paradise, because it was already here, where it appeared as in the womb of your mother, of the sperm of your father, because that is the true legacy and inheritance gifted to all of us. The wind of change is our attitude, how we live with each other, and how we stop living in these prison systems. Every house is a prison. Everyone inside it is locked inside defined realities of prisons. And you'll notice there is no food for us anywhere here. Each one drives to the shops, buys their food. It's all shit grown by people that hold them in their dreams. The water's compromised, so they drink shit. Electricity and all the power, all the magnetic frequencies and radio waves and microwaves are bombarding everyone. And they all think they've got paradise. Somehow, they're all in their living dreams. They've all got something. And yet they've got nothing. Absolutely nothing. It was all a fantasy. And they've allowed what was local to be ruled by occultists as the government, as the police, as the courts, as the judges. All this garbage because you gave up who you really are, because you accepted the definitions that your mother and father and others put in your bloody head. If you don't wake up, you'll forever be ruled by this madness. Because when you know who you really are, you already are the doctor, you already are the policeman, you already are the judge, you already are the politician, you already are everything of the system. But it's no longer a prosthetic, it's no longer a costume. It lives as your consciousness. It lives as everything that exists as reality. Because who we are is the whole of the dream of life. Who we are has never ended at the surface of our skin. Every single alphabet thought in your head is madness, is psychosis, psychotic. So I end it with what Jack Nicholson said. You can handle the truth.
Within our world, watching dreams without blue skies floating by. Why are the gray clouds forming overhead? Forming overhead. I'm trying to breathe, do my dreams keep moving out of sight? Moving out of sight. Sunshine that I seek shines faintly through the smoke. Layers of fantasy, images that blind us to our lives, blind us to our lives. And I'm trying to see, I'm juggling with my things, I'm struggling with the cold. And I'm spinning in a vortex of burning words, of burning words. Ooh, and my head's on fire. Oh, where's the love inside my heart to wake me up from storyland, from my deep sleep? We'll save the forest, we'll save the mountains, we'll save the ocean when we save our lives. We'll save the children, we'll save the old ones, we'll save our earth when we save our lives. By doing no harm. Ooh. We're living for the love that lights up in our hearts. We're living for the dream of a world of do no harm. We're living for our kin, our tribe of conscious men. We're living for the truth, no more waiting for saviors. No more waiting, no more waiting, no more waiting, no more waiting. We'll save the forest, we'll save the mountains, we'll save the ocean when we save
sucking me into their spells. Webmasters drawing me in, images forming my shell. I feel like breaking out. Somebody's pulling my strings. Somebody's reining me in. Thoughts paving pathways of gold, leading me into their fold. It's not me, I'm insane, going down, I can't breathe. I feel like breaking out, going blind, losing touch, fading out. I feel like breaking out. Fear, bitter cards, winding chains, shutting blinds, frozen heart, mirrored life, in fantasy, spellbound rider, jump at me. Sun is nearly setting, burning our bonds, choking on resistance. Where is your life? Whose dreams are you thinking? Wake up, wake up. Zombies have no future. It's not me, I'm insane. Going down, I can't breathe. I feel like breaking out, going blind, losing touch, fading out. I feel like breaking out. It's not me, I'm a yellow brick road. It's not me, I'm insane. Going down, I can't breathe. I feel like breaking out. Going blind, losing touch, fading out. I feel like breaking out, out.
Seas, raise a glass in celebration, broken trees, make a toast to amputation, our glory burns, shine a light, mesmerized by information, learned minds, valued thoughtful decimation. They feel they're doing right, they think the future's bright. When did the fires of hell start to look like heaven?
fight codes and signs, formulas they enshrine, breeding the land rats of mayhem, worshipping spells of harm, breathing the progress charm. Celebrate death to the living. So when does home end? And when does the peace begin? And where is your love that sets all the children free? How can you not care? Why will you not live for peace? The tide is turning, the levee's straining, but you're so proud the wall keeps forming. Your disconnection is not perfection. All your inventions are aberrations. While you're resisting, your thoughts persisting, the excavation of the lemming's fortune. Your brutal niceness, your kind indifference perpetuates the endless destruction.
Knowledge of the ancients amazes. Your intellectual grasp just inspires. No spiritual conveyance to testing. Your erudition waves from afar, but your head's so strong, your heart is blind. Can feel the way along the stepping stones. The walls of words distract from the trauma. A safety net from sanctity torn. Invalidation breaking the trust down. The armor building up through the years. And your head's so strong, freedom, freedom. Your heart is dead, your eyes don't break. Can't hear the song, your brain goes on, your flight don't land. And your head's so strong, freedom, freedom. Your heart is gone, your eyes don't break. Can't speak the tongue, creation's dreaming song. Your freedom. So many stories sharing the same pain. Those partnerships that sadly seem a fallacy of rules and conventions that nicely camouflage all the harm. But your head's so strong, your heart story.